Joerg, thank you very much for joining me.
Hey Wesley, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. You're doing me the favor here being my guest. How are you? How's things?
Things are great. I had a little accident last summer, or
Yeah.
not a little one, a big one. But recovery's been pretty good, and I had some more surgery 5 weeks ago, and that made a big difference. And since then, I've been on the up and up. Walking again with crutches and almost walking without crutches.
The long
Uh,
recovery process.
oh yeah, I mean it's been 6 months now since the accident, and I'm at this weird place right now where walking with crutches is too easy, and walking with them without them is too hard. So I never know what to do. My
Oh,
doctors are very clear what I should be doing, but yeah, it's
I guess it's
sometimes boring.
yeah, it's boring and it's hard to listen to them, those doctors, when you want to push further. What's the situation like there with COVID and stuff? Are you restricted at the moment? Is it quite open?
I mean, compared to everybody else in the world, we're very open. If you listen to some of the people around here, we're like in hell.
Yeah.
So they have really problems adjusting. Now, shops opened again Monday. The things that affect me most right now is restaurants are closed and the gyms are closed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same
Cool.
here. That's the especially for myself because I teach obviously
Mhm.
in a gym, teach MMA and stuff. So gyms being closed is something that I really notice. But yeah, restaurants as well is a thing. You forget how nice it is to just go and eat somewhere and chill with friends. But hopefully the UK are on their way to coming back out, as it
Mhm.
were. It's going to be a long road, and that's if there's not any more cock ups. But hopefully we're on the way back, and hopefully flying can resume here shortly.
Yeah. Flying has not been banned this time around, so people are flying. Uh, it's just tandems are not allowed right now, unless it's with somebody who lives in the same household as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not really something I'm much concerned about right now,
I bet.
for interesting reasons. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm
So
looking forward to flying again, but that will come when it comes. Right now, the priority is getting to walk again, and then
yeah.
do a little running, and then we'll talk about flying.
Have you before sort of your accident over the years? Have you had any part of your life where you've been sort of athletic or sporting and rehab and training has been a big part of your life, or is it now sort of you've just done it to tick over, and now because you're rehabbing from this injury, I guess it's very different.
Yeah, but I'm pretty lucky in that I've been doing sports since I was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was 15 when my uncle dragged me into a karate lesson, and that's when it started. So I've been in kind of an athletic mindset and training most of my life.
Yeah.
And actually, when I was in hospital first time around, and they explained to me that the next step is rehab, I had no idea about all these things, what was going on, because I had never been that badly injured, fortunately, before.
Yeah.
But when they told me, yeah, the next step is you're going into rehab, and I had this vision of, yeah, I'm going to training camp. And well, the first couple of weeks were not quite training camp because I was lying in bed, unable to move at all. But over time, it got pretty good. And now, with the surgery I had in January, I had to go back to rehab for 3 weeks. And that was a very intense, very fun, very great training camp for 3 weeks. That was really good.
Yeah, I bet that's physically and mentally. I bet that was quite a push, I bet it's really challenging, but I bet it was nice to finally be able to get your teeth into something and say, right, we're doing something now. We're progressing.
Yeah, especially after lying on your back for 4 weeks and not
Yeah.
being able to move at all. I mean, if I wanted to turn over, I had to call a nurse. That's how bad it was. And somebody who likes moving, likes using their body, it's a little bit of torture.
Yeah, yeah.
Or, Like it builds character, but it was good.
So before we touch on your accident, which we will, I am going to get you to talk in depth about your accident, obviously. But I mean, you and I met on the comp scene, so I guess you are known widely through the comp scene and also through your obviously with Valerium and stuff. But I think I'd like to know sort of how you came to paragliding, what your journey was to get here, really, because I think that's the fun bit of everybody's story is because it's so varied. There's so many different people in paragliding, right? Everybody's story is so unique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my story starts when I was a kid and I had those dreams of flying by myself. I don't know if you had them. I found out like about 50% of the population, if you ask them, when you were a kid, did you dream about flying? About half of them say, yes, I did.
Yeah.
Did you have those dreams?
I did because I flew birds of prey as well. So because I was flying birds of prey, I always dreamt of. I like to go really fast, so I have motorbikes. I like to go really fast, and I liked the thought of being separated from the ground and being in a wingsuit or flying somehow, you know.
Yeah. So, but you had those dreams when you were a kid of really pushed off the ground. Yeah. So I had those too, and I was really, really fond of those dreams of being able to fly over the landscape and everything. My father was a sailplane pilot, so we spent basically every weekend in summer and all vacations and everything we spent on the airstrip. So I grew up with looking up into the sky all the time, looking at whatever was going on up there. But when I was about 16, 17, when I was old enough to become a sailplane pilot, I was not really interested because over the time, I'd noticed how much work it was, especially as a student there. You spent a lot of time working so that others could fly. And my time was very limited because I was really involved with karate. So I didn't think it was good. And then a colleague mentioned paragliding to me, and I investigated that a little bit and found out, that's where you have your own aircraft on your backpack, and you can go fly whenever you want. You don't need assistance. You don't need anybody else to work for you, and you don't need to work for others. So that seemed really attractive. So while I was a student in '92, I took a year off to work to earn enough money to go take paragliding lessons. And that's when it started. So I started in '92, made the certification in '93. The first few years, I did not fly a lot, maybe 20, 30 hours, because I was still, very involved with karate. And I was always thinking I had to wait for the perfect weather, the perfect days.
Yeah.
So all the 90% days I skipped, I didn't think they were good enough. So I didn't progress much, and I didn't go forward a lot. So the first few years, like 7, 8 years, I did not fly a lot.
Wow. So you say you were involved heavily in karate. Did you compete and stuff, or did you just you were just training? Like you competed?
Yeah, I competed, but it was slightly different kind of martial arts than what you're doing. It was the very traditional, very formal Japanese karate with the white gis and the colored belts and everything.
Yeah.
And I competed in national competitions. I was in the national squad for a while for juniors, and then as an adult, there was 2 years where we trained really hard to become Swiss champions with a team. We almost made it. We came so we came second on the silver, and I got fifth, I think, in that year.
That's I mean, it's still competitive martial art. Obviously, what I do is now the popular thing. I've obviously been doing it for 18 years, so it's not as popular when I first started, but it's traditional martial arts like I'm from judo originally, so a traditional martial art as well. But traditional martial arts like karate and karate competitions back in 92, 93, 94, 95, they were the only big thing you could compete in. They were massive, big, like karate kumites and stuff, you know, they were
Mhm.
the big deal. So yeah,
Yeah.
you must have been training to be national team. You must have been training quite regularly and quite hard.
Yeah, like 5 times a week. And then the weekends there was more classes or tournaments.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that was all on the side of studying. So my days were pretty packed.
Yeah, and also it's nice to. No wonder you were dreaming about flying so much, because I'm the same. There's a certain amount that once you're being punched and kicked, is amazing how much more appealing flying becomes. Anyway.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that took
So
you. So for the first few years, you weren't really. You were just dabbling when you could, overestimating really the conditions that you needed to fly. But then I guess you got stuck into it from there. And where did it lead you? Cross country
well,
pilot or?
yeah, I mean, it started out basically when I moved to California, because in California I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you could do coastal soaring there. And in the beginning, I was really fond of that because it's like all you can eat buffet coming from Switzerland where conditions are often not so you can fly. And then you go coastal soaring, and it's like, yeah, you hang in there for 2 hours, 3 hours. You don't even need to work for it. No thermals needed.
Yeah.
So it was fun. But after a while, I had enough of that. I wanted to go thermal flying, and in the Bay Area, if you want to go thermal flying, usually you go away. There are few thermal sites. They're not very consistent. So usually the club there, they go away for the weekend. So it was a completely different mindset from here in Switzerland, where I always thought, well, if it turns good, I can still go. And there is like you commit for the whole weekend, whether it's really good or not. If it looks flyable, the club would leave for one of those sites, which were like 5, 6, 7 hours away. And we'd be there for the weekend. So I start flying in not 100%, but 90%, 80% conditions. Enjoying that a lot, learning a lot, getting better. And we actually, with the club, some pilots from the club, we went down to Mexico once for a week or so to fly. And while I was there in Tapalpa at launch, over the days, more and more foreigners arrived. I mean, in the beginning, when it was just us, the Americans, and more of those guys would arrive, and they looked really sporty. They were flying wings I had never seen before, and so overheard some. Oh, you're Swiss, so where are you from? What are you doing here? Oh, this is the World Cup. What's the World Cup? Well, it's a competition series, and we compete all over the world, and that's us. So that's my first contact with the comp scene at all. And I watched those guys and girls flying, and I was blown away. And I decided if I grow up, or when I grow up, I want to fly with those guys.
Yeah, that's I guess you when you first see that gaggle of competitive pilots. I mean, I remember before I really started comp flying, some small comps in the UK. I was on
Mm-hmm.
Annecy, and the PwC came to Annecy, and
Mm-hmm.
they launched, and I could just remember when everyone's. I was like, I'm definitely going to be flying comps then. It was just to watch all those great pilots in high performance wings all moving like harmoniously in a
Yeah,
tight little thermal. I was like,
yeah,
yeah, I guess I'm
yeah.
going to be one of them
That's
guys then.
that's how it should be, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly.
So I went home and I was like, where can I compete? What do I need to do? So I got really interested in that. And at the very same time, I was I had to retire from karate. I competed in the U.S. Nationals twice, and I got really badly hurt, and I couldn't do kicks anymore. So, and the kicks were my favorites. I have really long legs, so kicks were
Yeah.
really fun. So I couldn't do them anymore. I had to retire from karate. I didn't like it anymore. So it was a nice transition from one sport where I was really involved with and worked hard for it, and it had been an important part of my life. And then along came, I met those guys. I realized there is competing in paragliding, and I got involved in that. And because I had this kind of sporty training mindset, I was like, I noticed most pilots, if they compete, all they do is go to competitions, and then they fly by themselves every now and then. But basically, there's no real trainings, let's say, for competitions. And I was like, I don't know anything about this, and I need to train. I need to work out how to do things. So I heard that there was a competition series, or a friendly cross-country league, they called it, in Southern California. I went there a couple of times, drove all the way from San Francisco to the LA area. And it was canceled twice when I got there, so it was not much fun. So I decided to start a series like that in Northern California. And so it's the Northern California Cross Country League. And we went out, I think it was 1 weekend per month. We went somewhere, we tried to set tasks, we flew them. I didn't get very far usually. And we did the thing with downloading tracks and then evaluating them, looking at them, comparing them. That was a lot of fun for everybody. And when I left the Bay Area after a couple of years, one of my friends there, Joerg, he took over, and I think it's still running. The series is still going on, so it's great fun.
Yeah, that's to go from no involvement in any competitive paragliding, to then you see this little carrot dangling, come and fly with us, and you go and you can't, and then you're just, well, stuff this, I'm just going to set. I think that speaks to maybe like a competitive mindset, a go-getter, like, well, I want to do this, so I need to go out and do this, I've got nothing here, let's start it, let's show some initiative and let's start it. That's a pilot's mindset, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was an incredible learning experience this way. It was not just me going there and doing whatever task setters would do. I was way more involved right from the beginning, involved in task setting, scoring, and all that. And I also noticed some of the flaws in this whole world, how things were done, not in an ideal world. And I am somebody who tries to make things more perfect. Whenever I come across things that could be done better, I try to improve them. Then I came back to Switzerland, entered the Swiss paragliding league. I'd done okay in the US. The last US Open, I came 7th on the sports wing, which was quite okay. Mm-hmm. And I came here and I just simply stood no chance. I was, the level was a little different here, a little higher. Yeah. But eventually I made it into the World Cup and into the Swiss League, and even into the Swiss squad. 1 year, 2010, I was member of the Swiss team for the Europeans. That's the Europeans where it rained for 2 weeks.
What a time to get in the team.
Yeah.
So for you, I guess for you, comp flying was your lead into cross-country flying. It wasn't cross-country flying that led you into comp flying.
I had dabbled with cross-country flying before that, but literally my first cross-country flight took place 8 years after I started flying.
Wow.
And I noticed that there is a lot of room for improvement. And I also, when I found out about competitions, I realized that competitions are the perfect training ground for cross-country flying. Mm-hmm. And that's what it was. On the weekends here in Switzerland, when we did not have any competitions going, we would just go out and fly cross-country, and it got better and better. And I did, the first year I was back in Switzerland, I did my first 100K flight, and then 2 other really fantastic flights, and I noticed it's getting better.
Yeah.
So for me, it was always both. It was always flying competitively, maybe not that far, but very high intensity, and also take whatever conditions are thrown at you, and then taking that knowledge and going back to flying my own cross-country flights, usually in better conditions, usually longer, but every now and then you get somewhere where you're stuck, you don't know how to continue, and then the know-how, the experience from the competitions really, really help you.
Yeah, I think there's possibly a bit too much emphasis on the two things being separate, as in, cross-country flying and competition flying. Well, the only difference is this one involves a lot of other people and you're trying to beat them. But the principles, if you fly competition flights properly, if you can apply those principles then to your own cross-country flying, will hugely improve your cross-country flying.
Absolutely.
And whilst that's improving your cross-country flying, any elements that you discover from that, with the freedom that you have to make decisions, because like I was once told, if you have to make a decision when comp flying, you've already made a mistake. So which makes sense. But in cross-country flying, I might be on my own. All the decisions are mine. So that helps build the principles that you can then implement into your comp flying and improve as a pilot, I guess. So like the emphasis on them being two separate things is a bit overstated, possibly.
I absolutely agree. And here in Switzerland, I mean, we had several cases where there was a lot of crossover, where, the best cross-country pilot here, Krigel Maurer, he also used to be the top-notch competition pilot.
Yeah, sure.
And we had it the other way around, where the guy who did the most fantastic cross-country flights in Switzerland for several years, eventually he joined us in the competition scene. And he did really well there too. And then he went back and he says his cross-country flying came out a step or two steps better than before, because in the league, in the comp scene, that's where he learned to fly fast. And he got to the point where flying, it was all to do these flights or to do the flights we're doing anyway now, the big triangles. You have to be able to fly fast, and to fly fast, you learn that in competitions. You don't learn that by yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think there is a big thing in the UK about encouraging younger pilots to fly competition wise, but smaller comps in the UK. And I think, it's a bit, I know so many pilots in the UK who are struggling to go XC, and I'm like, it's because you're trying to go cross country. Just go, turn up on the day when everyone's going cross country and just go follow people and try and stick with a gaggle, or join. We have things like the BCC and stuff here, like really low level comps for guys on sports gliders and below, sports class and below and stuff. I'm like, go to them, go there, be involved in little mini competitions, because you have a lot more chance of flying far if other people are flying far.
Yeah. To some extent, to me, competitions are cross-country flying for beginners, and that's why I like it so much for myself. I mean, you come to a place that has been chosen as, at least here when we fly for the weekends, the place has been chosen as the best location in all of Switzerland by somebody who knows really what they're doing. You go there, you get more weather information than you could possibly swallow, and way more than you could possibly drag up yourself. You get a task set that is probably doable given the current conditions, which if I had to do that every time myself, I would probably fail. You have tons of really good pilots around you, so you can look at them, how they do it, and follow them and do the same task. And in most competitions, if you land out, it's no big deal, because the organizer comes and picks you up. It's really it's cross-country flying, but made very, very, very simple.
Yeah, exactly.
If you get good at that, you may enjoy that as a sport and stick with it, or you just may use it as a stepping stone to go flying yourself, learning enough about it to go flying yourself. In either way, I think it's a great way to start out.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. I completely agree. From the comps that I've done, and the community is so much fun. It's so, weather holds can be really fun. Like rainy days can be really fun as well, because there's a group of people who all want to fly. So you're surrounded with each other, but it's it's a great social aspect in comp flying, because you're surrounded by like-minded people who are all a little bit crazy because we have to be to do what we do, but you're all stuck in this position where you can't do the thing that you want to do. So yeah, I really like it. I like the whole comp scene. But so how did it? So you progressed from there, and then how did your comp career progress? Were you striving to be better or get better at comps, or because you also have a lot of involvement around scoring systems and stuff as well, which we can't cover on this podcast because I've tried to go. I've listened to your talks, I've watched videos, and still part of me goes, I'm just gonna have to turn up and try and go fast because it's so
Absolutely, difficult. That's a good strategy. Yeah, I mean the whole on the organization part. I mean, as I told you, I started this series, so I was involved already there a little bit. I knew a little bit about how scoring and task setting works. And as I kind of climbed the ranks within the Swiss League, I became basically an informal technical advisor to the Swiss League. Whenever technical questions came up of any kind, then they would ask me. And then I think it was 2011. Yeah, they had changed something in the rules for scoring. How stop tasks would be scored, and I noticed that nobody was taking care of that in the implementation. So the rule was set, but it was not implemented. And a couple months before the World Championships, I asked the question to the president of CIVL at that time, by the way, is anybody going to do that? Because you approved it in February and it's like 1 or 2 months till the World Championships. And he was like, yeah, can you do it? Because he knew I was a software engineer. So that's how I got involved in the development of FS, the scoring software that CIVL had been using. The guy who mainly worked on it to that point, he had kind of lost interest. He didn't want to put too much time into it anymore. So he basically handed it over to me. I implemented those 2 changes and thought, yeah, now I'm done with it. And as soon as I handed that off and we published the release, August, the president asked, okay, great. Can you please take over maintenance and software engineering for us? And yeah, so I did. So I took over both FS, the scoring tool, and the WPRS, our world ranking system. I've been maintaining them, keeping them alive for the last couple of years. And for the last 2 or 3 years, I worked on getting replaced. So both systems are being replaced now. There are newer systems under development, and they should come out this year or next year. And I'm not really involved in those, so I can slowly move back into a second role again.
It's an area that still sort of blows my mind. The scoring, the points, we've got Harry blocks them. So when I have a question, I'm like, Harry, and then Harry knows he's up to date on everything. So we just literally look at Harry and go, what? So he knows he's worked everything out. On the bus journey home, he already knows who's won and who's lost. I'm not have to wait until the sheet's printed out. But it's interesting. I think it's interesting as well that even for systems that have been in place for a while and seem to be doing fine, you, from the talk that you gave at the British Championships, you're finding little areas where you think it can be improved, but not only the scoring, that will improve the way that people race as well, which is quite interesting. You know, the fact that you've looked further at that. It's not just about improving the scoring system. It's about, can we improve our sport?
Yeah, that's all basically because I'm a really lazy person. And this, how complicated everything, it's just, I'm too lazy for all this stuff. So I want it to be simple. I want it to be easy. I also see people every now and then. I mean, we talked about encouraging people to start competing and all. And I see them often, I see them kind of put off by the complexity of things in general. Mm-hmm. I mean, whenever you start a new sport at a competitive level, it's quite a challenge. And I think there's a lot we can do to ease that and make it easier and simpler to understand for newcomers, for old timers like myself, for the media, for spectators, for everybody involved, basically. So that's kind of a red line that goes through most things I do. I like it simple because I'm a lazy guy.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that that I think is one of the reasons I love your instrument. So I use a Valerium. I would own be the right word? You own Valerium? You started Valerium, or how did it? What's you have an involvement with Valerium?
Yes, I do. That's a very accurate way to put it. Yeah. So go on.
Yeah. So what I like about the system is it's just so bloody easy to use. It's just so I don't fly with any maps on it or anything at all. I use it for mainly comps, and I fly it with the task in. It's so simple to use for a competition instrument, and then I have Fly Sky High or XC Track or something next to it because I can have really detailed maps, which you find out you don't actually really need that often when you're flying competition tasks. So when I have a competition task, I have my Valerium set up with all the information that I need, everything that I need to calculating wind speed, etc., etc. And then if I want to see where I am on a map, I can just look at one of the other ones that has a really clear, colourful display. But I love it. I love it for cross-country flying in the UK. It can be kept simple. The fact that it has like a QWERTY keyboard, you can use it with gloves. It just seems to work and be simple, you know.
Thank you. Can we clarify that I did not pay you to go on?
You didn't. I haven't even had a Valerium off of you. So I bought that off somebody else. So I'm not been funded by you yet.
Yeah. Thank you. You basically drove home all the points that I was trying to make with my work there. So what's my involvement with Valerium? Right now it's very little because due to my injuries, I'm deemed incapable of working for 100%. So my job right now is to get healthy again, which is fabulous. Yeah. It gives me really time to concentrate on getting up to my legs again. But so the story goes back about 10 years or even more when I bought a flight deck Vario. So the company that was known throughout the world as Flytech, as the Vario manufacturer. I bought a Vario from them, and I was one of those pesky, annoying customers who kept talking to them, calling them, sending emails. Hey, come on, you can do things better. This doesn't work. And if I want to use it in a competition, then you need to change this and this and that. After a while, they actually employed me. That's how things go. If you're annoying enough, they employ you. And for a while, I worked for them, small percentage, part-time. And it was the idea that I would eventually transition over to them, but somehow that didn't work out. So after a year, I stopped working for them and moved on. And then 2014, the Flytech founders called me and said, yeah, we need to stop. We're getting too old. We have 2 other companies that we need to take care of. Do you want to take over the company? And I was like, yes, I want, but I can't pay you anything. So, so we found a way to do it where I brought an investor first and then a whole group of investors eventually. And I started, or I worked there as the general manager or CEO, just company that small. The term CEO seems a little odd, so I call myself the general manager. And I took that company over. It had 35 employees. It was Flytech and Bräuniger in Germany. It was all one company. But the company didn't do very well at that time. I understood why the founders wanted to leave it. But it took me about took us all about 1 or 2 years to really notice that the company was basically dead by the time we had taken it over. And we invested a lot of time, a lot of energy, and even more money to make it fly again. And in that, we tried so many things to accomplish that. And one of that was a rename of the company, because we sold the name Flight Deck. At one point, that was the only thing we could do to get some money in, was selling the name Flight Deck and some of the Varios. So we did that. And so we were in the interesting position where we had to find a new name for our company, and we chose Valerium. So the company is still the same. It's this company that used to be Flight Deck here in Switzerland. It has produced Varios since the early 80s. It just has a new name now, and it's very much smaller than it used to be. In the last couple of years, it was myself and 2 part-time employees who do mainly repairs and manufacturing.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, so it's with the name Valerium, people are going to think it's like it's new. So they're going to see it and it's like, oh, this is new. But actually, it's built on lots of experience, built on previous Flytech equipment. So it's not actually a new system. It's just very much improved, rebranded. So if you're seeing the name Valerium, it's not something new. It's, oh, well, we need to let them find their feet. This is actually a well-established business or well-established model that you just updated and made better.
Yeah, that's what our goal is that using this experience that we have. And I mean, when I say it's just myself and those 2 employees, of course, we have all most of the former employees, they're still available. They're still friends. They help us out. Some of them even work for us part-time or as freelancers. So yeah, the experience is there, everything. It's just we had to change the name, at least in the paragliding sector. We were fortunate to keep the name Flight Deck in the ballooning world, which was very cool because balloonists, I found out over time, balloonists don't talk about Varios or instruments. They talk about flight decks. So for them, the thing you put on your balloon that tells you how high you are and whether you're going up and down, that's always a flight deck.
Wow, I didn't even consider that they would have one either. That's
do.
So stupid to be involved in paragliding and to not think a balloon would have an instrument. How ridiculous is that?
Yeah, and actually, if you look at balloons, in like 9 cases out of 10, it will be a flight deck. So they're pretty common, and that's what has kept us over water over the last few years now, because we're trying to re-establish Valerium as a brand for paragliding, and that takes time. It takes, as you say, people will look at it as, oh, there's something new. Will they still be around next year? Like all the other new companies, you need to overcome that initial resistance a little bit. So that's why we're really happy to have the balloonists also.
Yeah, I guess it helps you keep your head above water while you're developing the other thing. But I mean, I can't speak highly enough of it. When I had the money to buy whatever instrument I wanted, lots of people on the comp scene use Udis. I couldn't stand how difficult they were. People who've been using them for a long time I'd still see them sometimes scratching their heads about certain things. And I looked at it, the maps didn't look right to me. It just didn't look how I wanted it to be, an instrument to be. And I really love the grayscale appearance of things, black and white. This is like easy to see. Boom! I look down, I see it. There's no glare, and then I've got my phone for something more intricate. So when I started using it, I really was. Yeah, I was blown away at how easy it was. Within one flight, I was like, "This is my instrument. This is what."
Wow. Oh, you're blowing me away now. Yeah. I hope you can see how I'm blushing in the video.
No, it just works, It just, if I thought it was rubbish, I just wouldn't have brought it up. But literally on my flight,
would tell me, right?
Yeah, secretly maybe in an email where you can answer me back. No, I honestly, I use it. It's on my flight deck, and have the availability to have whatever instrument I wanted to buy, I bought a Valerium, you know, and I'm over the moon with it. And other people I spoke to have compared them, who have used them and compared them, all say the same thing. I'll keep my Valerium. It's, you know, I couldn't stress to people enough. Try one if you want a basic unit, as in it. Everything about it is just made simple for you to use. The input, volume controls, you can use gloves, the depress buttons, all of these things. You don't need a stylus, you know. All of these things are. There seems to be very thought out for a pilot who's flying in a competition and doesn't have to do much with their instrument, which is what I like.
Well, and it all goes back to what I said before. I'm a lazy person, so I want it to be simple. And I found out that a lot of people appreciate that, the mindset of the lazy person, because that allows them to be lazy as well. And
it's crazy that simplicity is now innovative. Like, if you look at iPhones, I'm not an iPhone user, but the whole thing of iPhones are their simplicity. iPhone users will say Android phones are too complicated. I'm an Android user, and simplicity seems to be innovation now.
Yeah, it's always, because we found out it takes a lot of work to make something so simple that somebody who was not involved in the development can use it just without even thinking about it. To make something intuitive to use is much more work than just doing something and then letting the user figure it out. We sometimes took 3, 4, 5 iterations until we were happy with, and our test users were happy with how things were. And of course, we could have gone out with the first version and told people, well, read the manual and you'll figure it out and you'll get used to it. But that wasn't quite how I wanted it to be done.
I guess that's the perfectionist side of you. You know, you can say you're lazy, which is quite self-deprecating, I know, but it's the perfectionist in you is the one who says, like, the excitement's like, this is ready to go, and then you stand back and say, it's not quite. We can let's just take another few bits and tweak a few things. And then when you think it's ready to go, you're like, it's ready to go, but I'll just have another look and just see if there's anything else. So it's the opposite to lazy, really. It's that perfectionist in you looking at things and thinking, we can tweak this. If you don't have to
do the work yourself, you know, I had my developers at that time.
I suspect looking after them is just as much work as doing it yourself.
Yeah, nearly. But it was great. At that time, my brother was actually heading the software development, and he and another pilot, Michael Moratti, the two of them, they developed most of the software that you're using now on the P1. And the three of us, it was just so great. I mean, Michael and I, we were competition pilots at that time. So we really wanted to, we had a really clear understanding of what things should be and how to do them. And my brother had just started becoming a paraglider pilot. So he looked at it from a completely different angle. He was a beginner pilot. And the three of us working together was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, it seems to have been the perfect package this far. So hopefully it continues to go down that road, and that Valerium still keeps pride of place on my flight deck.
Yeah.
So we're sort of approaching the bit now, mate, where we have to cover this accident of yours now. We know that you're flying and we've got the Valerium and stuff, but then, as you said, last year, it was last year or the year before?
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, last year you and if I remember rightly, it was in a comp, right?
Yeah, it was during the World Cup here in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Isn't this? Have you flown? Isn't this?
No, I registered for a comp in Descentis, and of course it's got a reputation. It's got a really bad reputation for being quite full on Descentis. It can be like a real workout.
It's alpine flying, but to the best.
Yeah, so but I was meant to fly. I think maybe a pre PWC there or something,
or maybe the Swiss Nationals last year.
Swiss Nationals. Was that the one that was really bad weather?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one that I was meant to fly, and I didn't because the forecast was looking bad, so I saved the money and didn't go.
Yeah. If you get a chance, I think you'd enjoy it, because it's alpine flying. I mean, in the center of the Alps, we have Fiesch, where we had the Swiss nationals last year, and then we have Disentis. And between those, I definitely prefer Disentis. It has way more options. The landscapes are mind-blowing in both places, but in Disentis you have way more options in terms of tasks, and it's beautiful. It's really great up there. So yeah, we had the World Cup there last August, and I mean, I had not flown enough in the Alps last year because of COVID. We missed the whole spring season, and also later on, early summer, a lot of the comps that we had planned, they were canceled either because of COVID or then because of the weather. So even though I had a really high number of hours, because I'd flown like 50 hours in Colombia in January, the number of alpine flying hours was for that year, my training level for alpine flying was not that high. And during the Swiss nationals 2 weeks before in Fiesch, the first couple of days I did not feel very comfortable, but over time it got better and better. And then we had a break 1 week, and then the World Cup came on, and I felt fine there. I felt really good. I enjoyed it a lot. Training day was fabulous. Playing over the glacier in the clouds was fantastic. I have to say, the accident itself, I don't know what happened. I don't have any memory of the whole day. So even like getting up, having breakfast, going up the mountain, briefing, flying for 2 hours before the accident happened, I have no memory at all.
Wow.
So my last memory is the day before, where the task was canceled because some rain was coming in. And then later on, when it turned up again, the sun came out, I took a tandem flight with my goddaughter. For 1 hour, we flew around, and people commented how we both were grinning when we came down and landed. And I brought her to the train station, and that's my last memory. And the next thing I remember is 5 days later, I woke up, came out of the coma at the ICU, the intensive care unit in the hospital. So I don't really know actively what happened, but we, of course, this being a competition and me having all these instruments, we looked at the track quite intensively. We analyzed what I did. So I can basically give a second-hand report of what happened, or what I think what happened. But yeah, in short, I flew in a corner that I was able to soar it up. So it was on the upwind side, basically, but it was also downwind from another spine at half a kilometer further upwind. And I took one turn a little too deep into the lee side, into the downwind side, got into trouble, got hit deep, a big sink, and to make it away, I turned 90 degrees away from the terrain, and then the track just drops straight down. So probably when I turned away from the terrain, I hit a real big turbulence. Big parts of my wings collapsed. I somehow managed to stabilize direction. It never went around. But after 4 seconds, I hit the slope. And it's a pretty nasty slope. It's pretty steep with huge boulders. And I tumbled down another 20, 30 meters in that slope. And probably part of the injuries are from that second part.
Wow. It must be like, I don't know whether it's better or worse that you have to interpret what happened.
Oh, way better, way better. I'm very, very happy I don't have memories of me falling down into that mountainside.
Yeah, I guess for fear. Fear memory. Yeah, and that must be really good for your future flying, definitely.
Yeah, and also dealing with it now. I mean, I heard other stories of people repeatedly every night dreaming of whatever injured them, of that event. I wouldn't need that. I think I'm way better off this way.
Yeah, that makes
Doctors say
sense.
your body decides whether it remembers or not, and mine decided to not remember, and I'm really happy about that.
Yeah. What about witnesses, people, other people in the comp, people who saw you? If you had any
No,
input from them?
the other pilots, I mean, I flew with Michael Siegel a little before that, and he basically turned left out into the valley, and I turned right into the mountains. And he commented that he thought, well, it was a little on the windy side, and he didn't feel like going into the mountains. He understood why I wanted to stay there and make more altitude rather than just pushing forward like everybody else. But he just didn't feel comfortable. He couldn't really say why. It was, I mean, he's a very experienced pilot. He listened to his gut and he decided not to do what I did. Everybody
Yeah.
else was already gone at that time. I did, when I soared up, I got to the mountain top and there was a hiker there and I flew by him and I waved at him, apparently. I talked to him later on the phone. We waved at each other, so I must have been totally relaxed at that time.
Yeah.
The hiker tells me after he waved at me, he turned around and looked at his map to see how he gets down from the mountain. And while looking at the map, he hears this loud ruffling noise behind him. He turns around and just sees the last tip of my glider disappear around the corner. And he thought, well, that's probably how this sport sounds. Didn't think anything about it.
Yeah.
And started his descent. And later on came into this mountainside with those huge boulders, and he started jumping down the boulders, having fun. Comes around the corner, and there I was lying and screaming. And
So
he
he
found.
found you. He's the guy who discovered you.
Well, at the same time, this being the World Cup, and again, I'm really happy this happened during the World Cup.
Yeah.
We have live tracking. So one member of the organization team was following the whole field in the live tracking. And they'd already noticed that my track had stopped at a very unusual place.
Mm-hmm.
So they had started calling me. I had not responded. And so they sent the helicopter there. But this hiker found me pretty much at the same time as that was going on. He sort of freaked out and he remembered that a friend of his, I think former partner of his, is a nurse and had just started flying paragliders a couple of years ago.
Wow.
So he called her. I found an injured paraglider pilot. What do I do? Now, the crazy bit is I know this woman. I know Sarah. And she's now the partner of a pilot friend of mine. And because of that, she wasn't, isn't this? She was at headquarters when he called her.
Wow.
And so she ran in, told everybody, well, we found an injured pilot. And they said, yeah, we know, it's Joerg, helicopter's on the way. Please ask your friend who's up there to just stay with him and keep him calm. And he told me that was a hard job for 20 minutes, forcing me to stay down. I was convinced I had to get up and walk down the mountain somehow.
But you're conscious though at this point. You didn't.
Yeah.
Did you lose? Do you know if you lost consciousness at all, or you don't know that?
I do not know because I do not have any memory of all this. Yeah. I mean, apparently I had a slight concussion and I kept repeating the same question over and over and over. Mm-hmm. But in Swiss German, and he doesn't speak Swiss German, so we could not really communicate there. But he said he had to yell at me at times to make me sit down and stay quiet. And he was really relieved when after about 20 minutes the helicopter came and the doctors took over.
Wow.
It's a crazy story. And to make the story even crazier, he works as a short order cook at my favorite restaurant in Disentis. So 2 days before that, I had taken my goddaughter there to have burgers. And he had cooked burgers for me.
The synchronicity in your accident is like unbelievable.
Yeah. It's really unbelievable. And the amount of luck that is involved and like me being here and being able to talk about it and laugh about it, it's mind-blowing, really.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the things when these incidents happen, from an outsider's point of view, of course, your immediate thing is, oh shit, I hope everything's okay. I hope he's all right, blah, blah, blah. Then the next thing is, I guess you never know how people are going to be. Like yourself, you're quite open and you want to talk about it. Some people are obviously going to be a bit more reserved and a bit more dismissive. And so I guess you never know the psychological impact of something like this and how people deal with it. And I guess that's one of those things for you. You don't know how long that's going to go on or if it's going to affect your flying until you fly. You're in that predicament now where I guess you long to fly, you want to fly, but you cross that bridge when you come to it. But it's very, like, it's interesting, your approach and your recall and the fact that you laugh about it and you can see the positive side of it, which is how I hope I would respond. But also you see other people who do go the other way, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, I've spent now altogether about 4 months in a rehab clinic where everybody who's there, all the patients there, they have gone through a very traumatic experience similar to mine. And you see the whole range of how people can react to that. So yeah, it is an interesting experience also from that aspect. You get to know things you didn't need to care about before and you never cared about. And now it's part of the life.
So you wake up 5 days later. Were you in an induced coma?
Coma. They induced me a coma to save my spinal cord because there have been some injuries. They were afraid if I moved, I would make the injury even worse. So they induced a coma. And then they did all the surgery, all the repairs while I was in that coma. And then they woke me up. So when I woke up from coma, all the repair work was done. All the drama was over. And my job was to get whole again.
Which I guess is even better as well. Just like, this has happened, now you're here, let's go. So what were your injuries when you woke up? What were you told when the doctor came in and told you? What did he say it actually happened?
Well, I think it was my brother who enumerated the things, and then over time also the doctors. I mean, from the outside perspective, the worst is the broken vertebrae, which had also injured a little bit of the spinal cord. So they had taken that out, replaced with an implant. But that's really great. That's the one injury that does not affect me at all. And yeah, I don't feel any pain there, and I can move, and everything is really perfect. It's amazing how surgery went in that place, and it was a very sensitive place, how good they could repair that. That's certainly something that happened right on the impact. I mean, it's the classic paraglider injury. It's the first lumbar vertebra. Yeah. That's just the weak link we have in our back that whenever you crash, that one goes. I also shattered my femur, and that possibly happened while tumbling down. And it's not just a break, it was in 1,000 pieces.
Wow.
So they took the bigger pieces and tied them back together with some wire and all. Drove a big nail down the center of the femur. And
you make it sound like someone's building a fence. They wrap some wire around it and hit a big nail.
I don't know if you have a lot of experience with surgeons, but you would usually think of them as people who, they're probably also good at building fences. Yeah. So that was that part, and the last big part was my foot, my right foot. It had been split in two, and later on I found out that probably it got stuck between two rocks, and then because I tumbled down, you can imagine. Yeah, it was an interesting X-ray. They told me somebody had to hold the two pieces into the camera because they were not able to do an X-ray otherwise.
Oh, bloody! I literally, as you were telling me, I'm like wiggling my foot. Wiggling my foot to imagine. I don't want to imagine what that must be like, but I literally sat and wiggled my foot just to check that. So I guess it snapped in half along the length, not along the width.
Yeah, underneath the. Oh no! Now I'm missing the term. But yeah, within the joint, it's
Yeah.
split along the length. Yeah. But when I came to, it was fixed. It was in one piece. Was there even a cast? I don't know. I didn't think there was a cast, just some bandage around it. And it looked like a foot, a little swollen, but not much more. It was a miracle. So, and also, I mean, there's still some stuff going on right now, 6 months down the road, but yeah, imagine spraining your ankle like really hard. That kind of feeling I have now. So, and I had that before, bad landings, and it usually, yeah, sprains take a year until they're gone, and
Yeah.
I'm basically on that path right now with that.
Yeah.
Then they started mentioning all the minor injuries, which were, yeah, many broken ribs. I broke my sternum. Imagine
Oh,
that. That's really yeah, it's quite a big bone. How do you break that? But
from somebody who I don't like getting punched or hit there, so to break it, oh, a kick to the sternum is one of the worst things you can
yeah,
experience in your life.
yeah,
So to
yeah,
break the sternum, wow.
yeah. That's quite. I figured you can sympathize with that. And the last injury we discovered 2 weeks after the accident was I had also broken my pinky finger.
Of all the things, it's like, you guys seem to have forgotten this.
Yeah, that's about how it went. I was like, this is always hurting when I use it. Maybe it's broken too. And they went, oh, you're right. Yeah, it's also broken.
Why? I mean, the damage is extensive, but also what you seem to have done is you seem to have damaged many parts that are going to take a long time to heal. Like the secondary effects of them are going to be quite prolonged because you broke your foot in half. Now, anything you want to do mobility wise is going to involve you having a foot that functions. So if you'd have broke your wrist in half, it's not so bad because you can do lots of other things. But you break your foot in half. Is it the foot and the femur on the same leg?
No, of course not. That would be too easy.
Sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, creating a training program and a therapy plan for myself was quite the challenge for my physical therapist at the rehab clinic because, yeah, we wanted to move, we wanted to get things going, reactivate the muscles and everything. But whatever she wanted to do, there was something stopping her from doing that because there was an injury there. And it took a while until we got to a level where we could actually go into this training camp that I had envisioned. But on the other hand, yeah, it sounds really crazy. But on the other hand, a crash like that from 50 meters, big collapse, we don't know how much, but a big collapse, 50 meters from the ground, smashing down into a very steep, rocky mountainside. Usually pilots don't survive that, or they come out paraplegic.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm neither of that. So I'm really, really, really happy about how things turned out.
Yeah, and also, you were in a comp environment as well, so you got medical treatment quite quickly. The helicopter was already on his way. Plus, you had your man there to keep you on the floor and stop you injuring yourself. Because the next thing could have been you try to stand up and you fall even further. So
yeah, or just by standing up, the chances are I would have injured my spinal cord more than it is injured now, and that would have been disastrous.
Yeah, exactly. So it's it's as bad an injury as you can get, and still have a positive outcome from it. I mean, this. I guess you're considering this a positive outcome, considering what could have happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I keep saying. It's like I was extremely lucky, and I'm happy with how things are now. It could have been so much worse.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's I should imagine you've had some pretty dark days psychologically, some days that have got to you, but I guess then your positive mindset and the way that you've approached it is going to be and has been a big part of your healing. You'll heal that positive psychology is going to be a massive part of getting better and the want to get better.
Yeah. And I mean, most days I didn't have to, but on the days when I didn't feel like it, feel very good, it was a conscious decision to stay positive. Fortunately, there were not that many days where this was really necessary, that I had to push myself to stick with it and stay positive. I mean, and every now and then you have to allow yourself to feel how you feel. That's okay. I had bad days and I had good days, but I basically made a game out of that, and making games out of things helps you deal with things. At the rehab clinic, get down to breakfast. I always took the wheelchair for that, for logistic reasons, even when I was ready to walk with crutches. And that was always the test for me, how the day was going. So on a good day, I was so fast, I had to actually slow down the wheelchair in front of the sliding doors. Otherwise, I'd smash into them because they were too slow for me. That was the good days. Oh, wow, it's a good day today. And on the bad days, the guys walking on crutches would pass me while I was in my wheelchair going towards the restaurant. So that was the bandwidth, and that's helped me, and also smiled about myself. Okay, you're a slow day today. You're being passed now by those 3 ladies on the walker. And so, yeah, that's...
they're going to be the things that really help. I mean, you can have as many positive people around you as you like, and as many people patting you on the back and saying good for you. But if you can't be the guy who's making a game, and if you can't be the guy who gets out of bed and says, listen, we're not having a day like we had yesterday. Yesterday was yesterday. We're not having a day like that today. Boom, and you get up and you get on. It's going to be a lot harder unless you can be that guy,
Yeah. And it's also always about, maybe it's the perfectionist again. I don't want to die a day like yesterday. So what can I do to change that? How can we improve so things get better again? And that was a constant process. Myself working with everybody there, with the therapist. I got a really great compliment from my physical therapist at the very end, where she told me we were working as a team. It was not this therapist-patient relationship. It was like we were eye to eye and working as a team. That's what I had been striving for, and she actually commented on that. It was a big compliment to me. And that's also how I approached doctors. I came with a long list of questions and suggestions every time we met, because I wanted to do my part to move this forward. And if things were not good, I thought hard. I had a lot of time to think about how to improve things. So I thought about how to improve things.
Which is better, because the more time you're thinking about, Doc, can we do this? Can we do this? It shows your desire to get back to where you were. It shows your desire to move forward. If you're sat with no questions and you're constantly asking, well, will I be able to do this, or will I this, or can I? You're sort of stuck in this mode of I'm helpless in all of this.
Yeah.
And I guess the attitude that you took was, I'm proactive. How do we get to this? Where can we go? Can we do this? Can we try this? And I think that's a great mindset to have,
Yeah. Yeah.
What wing were you flying at the time, Joerg?
Oh, the usual, an Enzo 3.
Okay, yeah. Because I mean, that's in no way, shape, or form to say that the wing is to blame in any way, shape, in any way at all. I guess from the same as what happens most of the time, pilot error is the biggest factor in your accident. Lack of judgment, a misjudgment, not foreseeing, however you want to phrase it, but the wing is not the issue. It was just curiosity for me. Yeah, it was just curious. I was just curious as to what you were flying, and you had lots of experience on that wing as well, right?
Yeah. Hundreds of hours.
Yeah, exactly. It was
actually my second Enzo 3.
Okay. Because not many people survive an incident like yours and are in a position to talk so frankly about it. And although you have no recollection of what happened, but not many are in a position to speak to other paragliders and say, like, this is what happened. I believe it was a mistake by me. I believe this is where I went wrong. I don't think, I'd flown the wing before. I'd had collapses on the wing before. I knew how to fly the wing. I don't think the wing was the problem. I think that's what you're basically saying, is that you accept the responsibility for what happened.
Yeah, and that's also, one of the reasons why I was not too unhappy to get out of karate was that in those competitions, the outcome all often depends on other people, either your opponent or the judges.
Yeah.
And I really got to appreciate a lot that in paragliding, the outcome only depends on myself. I mean, there are very, very, very rare circumstances where somebody crashes into you or your wing or so, but that's basically, it's almost not happening. So whatever happens to me, it's me, myself, and I, in the good and in the bad. And I like that. I prefer it that way around. And that's how it is in this situation as well, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to approach life. It just assume as much responsibility as you can. And I always say to people, like, in life, try and find a way to blame yourself for everything. Because if you can find a way to blame yourself, you can work on putting something right. If somebody else is to blame, you can't do anything. I can't control other people. So all I can control is myself. If I can find a way to blame myself, or find a way to change little bits about the things that I did, that's the key to progression, right?
Yeah. Blaming is one part. The other one is being proud of yourself. That's basically, I at one point I decided I want to come out of this whole rehab process. When I look back, I want to be able to be proud of myself, how I handled that. And that certainly helped.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to this point, health-wise, I think you can definitely be proud. Talking about it wise, you can definitely be proud. Listening to the story is fantastic. So what's your plans moving forward? Have you had anything said to you about getting back to flying, or is it something you're not even thinking about yet? You just have little goals that you're trying to set yourself, or?
Well, my next goal is Easter is coming up. It's like a month from now, and I want to take a walk without crutches on Easter.
Wow. There we go. On Easter, I just want to eat so much chocolate that I can't walk, really. But
It's kind of, it's probably, I don't know. It's sort of a tradition around here. Families go out on walks on Easter because the weather is nice. And if the weather is nice, I want to take a walk without crutches. So that's my next goal. Regarding flying, really, I don't make definite plans, but since I made a voucher for my therapist to take her on a tandem flight. And we agreed that this should happen sometime this year. So I'll be working on that.
That's a superb goal. That's because you have the full support of your therapist. Is not because one of the big issues would be you setting goals that are unrealistic to your rehab or pushing yourself too far. But for your therapist to be in on that as well, and that's a great goal because it shows that this year there's real progression to do what you want to do. I guess would flying be one of the things that you want to do most of all?
Not right now. Not right. Right now, it's walking without crutches.
Yeah.
That really slows me down.
How far are you? How far are you going with crutches right now?
12,000 steps was my record.
Wow.
But so I can go basically indefinitely. I'm really at the verge of being able to walk without crutches. I do it a couple steps here in the apartment, but I'm lacking a little bit of stability and power for that. That's why I say 4 weeks down the road, I should be able to take at least a Sunday stroll, an Easter stroll without them. And then we'll see how it goes from there.
Superb. It's absolutely amazing. It's to hear how far you've come, and you're here where you're now talking and you're looking at going out and walking without crutches shortly. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to the flying part for sure. It's not the thing I want to do most, Yeah, it's. But I mean, the question came up a couple times. Will you ever fly again? For instance, my hairdresser, she flat out forbids me to ever go flying again. But at the rehab clinic, you'll like this with your birds of prey history. In the area of the rehab clinic, I think it's about 40 or 50 red-tailed kites who live there.
Wow.
It's huge. And when it's really windy, they use the clinic itself for soaring. They soar the sides of the clinic. Wow. And as soon as there's one ray of sun, the fields out front of the clinic, you would never think they'd feed thermals, but there are thermals there apparently, because the red-tailed kites, they go there, and sometimes you have 20, 25 of them in one thermal going together. Amazing. And I would just sit there and watch them, and I couldn't stop watching them. And it was so moving. And also that's when I decided, probably we'll fly again, because I couldn't take my eyes on them, and I was basically putting myself always in their position. And now turn right, now your thermal did more to the left. No.
Pulling on imaginary brake strings like this.
Yeah.
So do you think you'll talk to somebody psychologically in the build up to this, or you feel happy with where you are?
That changes. When I got to the clinic at first, it's part of their normal program that you talk to a psychiatrist there. Mm-hmm. And we had, 5 or 6 sessions once a week. And in the end, he told me that I went through the really textbook progression psychologically. Like the first time we talked about it, I could barely talk. I was weeping the whole time. Every time I explained anything about what was going on, I was weeping. And then 4, 5, 6 weeks down the road, I was making jokes about it. And he said, that's textbook. That's how people go through things like that. And so at the end, he was, you're making now jokes about it, so you don't need to see me anymore. It's good. Mm-hmm. That was then. And now that things are dragging on, and some things, like I had to do another surgery for my leg because it wasn't growing together in the beginning. So sometimes it's wearing me down a little bit. And talking to somebody can be nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big advocate of psychologists anyway. In my fighting career, I feel that I've lost fights due to psychological reasons. Mm-hmm. I've had fights, and literally I've been led on my back, being punched, and I'm thinking about what I'm going to do for shopping the next day. And that's not a joke. I've been literally been there. I've been led there thinking in a minute, I wonder what the second round. Well, I'll be tired. Will I be tired in the second round? And you're like, what is going on? So I'm a big advocate of psychology, and especially with the flying elements. But then take being a paraglider pilot completely out of it. Like, you're allowed to feel like shit now. You had something big happen. You're allowed to have bad days, and I think being open to the fact of talking to somebody. Even if you feel like you're in a great space, talking to someone about your positive mood is going to be just as beneficial.
It's like, what do you think I'm doing right now, Wesley?
Don't take any advice from me. That's my number one piece of advice.
No, it's not about the advice. It's about the talking.
Well, I'm glad that's one thing I can accommodate. I can talk.
No, seriously. We have some mental coaches in the Swiss League that take care of us from the competition pilot side. I'll think about that, whether I need something like that when I get closer to actually being ready to go flying. I mean, ultimately, I will only know when I'm strapped in and ready to go. But I'll see that when we're there.
Yeah, and until then, the Valerium will get a really good looking at as well, so that's good. The software for the Valerium will be the best on the planet.
I was thinking so for a while, and then I mean, just now looking back over the last 6 months, I mean, of course, in the beginning it was hospitals and rehab, and then I was home for 2 months, then I had to go back into hospital. But I have not programmed a single line of code since then. So I need to get back into that, but I found that like, being able to work at a desk, concentrate for a longer period of time, that's also almost like a muscle, and it atrophies like all the other muscles as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So now I'm back to 2 hours per day where I can do some office work. Catching up on all the accounting of my cell and my private accounting of the last few months. But working for the company, yeah, I can do small things, but working on the P1 and improving the code there, I hope so soon, but I can't make any promises.
Yeah. You don't, I mean, the thing is, you don't want to commit or concentrate on something and then find out there is hindering progress, but feel a responsibility to do it. You know, I think you're much better in the situation that you're doing for what you're doing, you know?
When I got released from rehab this time around 2 weeks ago, somehow I had misunderstood one of the doctors, and I thought they'd cleared me for working 2 days a week. And so I came home, and on Monday I sat on my desk and I started working, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I could never do more than an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. And I was supposed to do 3 hours a day. And I got so stressed out. I got really annoyed with myself and stressed out because they say I'm ready now to work 40% and I can't even do that. And then on the third day, on Wednesday, just sorting through papers, I found the release they'd signed, and it was still 100% unable to work. Yeah. Oh, now.
That makes sense.
That makes sense, yeah. I was pretty happy and much more relaxed after that.
Yeah. The pressure you put on yourself had been relieved, and that's
and I'm pretty good at that. Putting pressure on myself, I'm good at that. So having others tell me not to helps.
Yeah, definitely. Well, listen, Joerg, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna let you go, mate. Sure. I guess talking to me must be as hard a work as sitting down and programming code anyway.
Don't underestimate yourself, Wesley. No, it was a pleasure.
The pleasure is all my honest. I can't emphasize enough, mate. Your positivity throughout telling your story has really come across, and I think that's going to be great for anyone who has been or ends up in a situation similar to yours. Your positivity and your outlook has been superb. Hearing about your whole story has been brilliant. So honestly, the pleasure is mine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wesley. And see you soon on a hill somewhere flying.
Definitely. I'll say goodbye now and then, but stay there, mate, and we'll say goodbye personally. Sure.